I admire the design of Shen. They managed to do something very creative and very memorable, and they really took advantage of the fact that it's a peacock and gave us something very pleasant to watch. By seeing his parents, who are regular coloured peacocks, we can tell that Shen is either albinic or leucistic, most likely the latter. This could further add to his angst and how angry he could feel, seeing how he would stick out like a sore thumb and look rather sickly by comparison, which is not a good image for the royal family, especially when you look at his parents who were just so colourful. I began to notice this as we see him for the first time, and we see these wearing white and silver coloured robes. I really love this because I would have expected him to be wearing something along the lines of blue or green to match a normal looking peacock. But no, he wears the exact same colour as his feathers to show that he wears his imperfection with pride. And I think that shows how evil he is, because it just shows he knows he's not a force to be reckoned with and he's not making any effort to hide it. He just wants everyone else to know the same. It's odd because if you look at some of the concept art of Shen before the film, his robes are actually white and red coloured. It itself is actually a continuing theme throughout the entire film, but I'll be getting into more of that later on. Shen's actual features are very reminiscent of an ancient Chinese emperor, with the crest on his head acting as a sort of headdress and can look a little bit like the hairstyles they would have back then. And it also goes without saying that Shen has what can only be lovingly described as a Fu Manchu style moustache. One final thing that I can't get off my mind is, I'll admit, when I heard the villain was going to be a peacock, I was thinking to myself, how on earth are you going to put clothes on a peacock? All those feathers, isn't it going to be fairly awkward? But luckily they did a good enough job with it, like having the rope sort of be cut a little bit at the front, and it adds a lot more freedom for his legs to move around. And the back of it is well designed as well, so it'll go up as the tail goes up. Now of course one thing that makes many villains great is showing how funny they can sometimes be, and Shen is definitely that.
Shen! A panda stands between you and your destiny! What? Prepare yourself for a hot serving of justice! Your reign of terror comes to an end.
What?
His funny moments mostly come when he's on the screen with another character, like the boss wolf.
Look, Shen! I saw a panda!
A panda?
A kung fu warrior. It fought like a demon. Big and furry. Soft and squishy. Kind of plush and cuddly.
Poe.
Sort of evil janitor or something.
Greetings, Panda. We meet at...
Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
Or even the soothsayer.
I see pain
Ow!
and anger,
How dare you! That is the finest silk in the province!
followed by denial.
This is not fortune-telling. You're just saying what's happening right now.
Now,
Most prominently is the running gag that the soothsayer, being a goat, can't stop nibbling at Shen's robes.
Will you stop that?
Don't even think about it.
Just his reaction of getting fed up as everyone else starts to wind him up and annoy him are pretty hilarious in and of themselves. Although one comedic element that I think only my BF and I noticed was the fact that he comes very close to swearing on a couple of occasions. First was when he ordered the boss wolf to light the cannon, but Mantis kept putting out the fuse and he shouts,
Well, like that thing!
You could tell in the way his mouth started to move that he was almost very close to saying something else. And I'm aware that might be stretching it, but it's a lot more noticeable later. Just before the boss wolf is killed, and he shouts,
Fire for fire that dog!
I have to admit, I definitely laughed hard the first time I heard that, because I can imagine him thinking that the censors will let him get away with mass genocide, but no way will they ever let him swear. Also, let's look in detail at that prophecy made by the soothsayer, shall we? The prophecy went that if Shen continued on his destructive path, he would be defeated by a warrior of black and white. And of course, Shen, overhearing this, was practical and thought it meant a panda, so he went out and killed them all, hoping that he could change his fate. However, later in the montage scene, we see Shen holding the halberd up against his face, and the 2D animation colours show half his face to be black and leaves the other white. This not only shows the obvious complexity and dimensions in his character, but it also comes full circle later because at the end of the film it's ultimately his own fault when he's finally killed. But it's a little amusing to me because once again it's another very self-fulfilling prophecy. If Shen never even overheard the soothsayer in the first place, or if the prophecy was never even spoken about, then all of the chaos surrounding it never would have happened at all. The reason the prophecy was even mentioned is because his parents were concerned when he started to study the fireworks and really loved the idea that they could destroy things. Which is pretty much true. You don't need me to tell you that fireworks themselves are fun and spectacular, but are also extremely dangerous. And with this knowledge, he later invented the cannons, which actually combined elements of his parents' fireworks. So it almost makes you think, what would have happened to him if he never actually went insane in the first place? Maybe he would have gone down in China's history as another great monarch and inventor, just like his parents. However, they do actually hint that he was already slightly twisted even before he overheard the prophecy, and you have to think his parents must have had a pretty solid reason to be concerned about their son's sanity. Another quick thought that just came to my mind is that when you think hard about it, Lord Shen has been in Poe's life a lot more than we first initially thought. Because let's rewind, going all the way back to the first film. Poe became the Dragon Warrior after he tried to get into the Jade Palace to see the Furious Five performing different stunts by strapping a bunch of fireworks to a chair, which was actually based on the legend of Wan Hu from ancient China. Wan Hu was a Chinese official during the Ming Dynasty, and according to legend, he strapped a lot of fireworks to his chair in order to get to the moon. But as the legend goes, both him and the chair disappeared after the fireworks were lit and were never seen again. After his rather ludicrous plan manages to succeed, an Oogway chose him to be the Dragon Warrior. This is how he met his destiny, by using the fireworks on the chair to get into the palace. And of course, who invented the fireworks? Coincidence? I think not. Now let's see what Shen's weapons consist of. His main weapons include these blades, which are actually crafted and carved to resemble birds' feathers, which I have to admit are gorgeous to look at. He often keeps them hidden beneath his robes, although we don't really see how. He will often hold one in between each of his feathers, if not using one at a time. But my personal favourite weapon has to be his halberd, the large curved sword-like weapon, and it looks so cool and so intimidating. The halberd itself is long enough for Shen to pole vault and perform small acrobatics, which themselves are very entertaining to watch. The edges of the halberd are curved, which not only make the blade stronger, but also when the blade penetrates the body, it stays there, and when removed it will shred and tear through flesh like a knife through butter, and will probably take a couple things out with it, causing a very nasty death indeed. All throughout the film I just kept thinking to myself, I want to see someone get stabbed with that thing. I imagine if I saw it, then it would be the type of entertainment value you could only get from seeing a really cool looking death in a horror film. Just that morbidly delightful feeling. Another weapon he has are these glove-like weapons, with extended metal talons which he wears on his feet. Not only are the talons metal, and he often scrapes them along the cannon to release sparks and light the fuse. Apparently, he wears the gloves not only for combat and other practical purposes, but also he uses them to cover up the burn marks on his legs, which I can only assume is off one of three things. A, when he was experimenting with the fireworks when he was younger. B, from when he was in the process of building the cannon. Or C, when he burnt the Panda village down. Another weapon that is only ever used once in the entire film are his rope darts, which is what he used to take down Master Storming Ox when he goes for him. After that, they're not seen or mentioned again. But of course his most famous weapon is the series of giant cannons which Shen built himself. But the actual mechanics are based off his parents' fireworks. And of course the cannons are the reason for the quotes that Shen says often in the film. Take aim and fire.
Take aim.
Fire!
Fire!
Fire! Fire! Fire at them! I said fire at them! Fire! Keep firing! Keep firing!
When the cannon fires one of its balls, which Shen and the wolves made by melting down any spare metal they can find and or steal, the cannonballs are covered in very sparkly like flames. So not only are the cannons filled with gunpowder, but also contain the same ingredients that give fireworks their colour, creating a very dazzling light show. They even make the same screeching noise that a firework makes when it's being fired. To which I might add that the screeching noise of a firework going off does sound a little bit like the screeching call of a peacock. When the Furious Five think they have destroyed the cannon, they're only horrified to find out that he has made dozens and dozens more, which are not only in the building he retreats to, but they're also on all of his ships. This weapon is the main focus of the film, because it's the main threat that the cannon will make the art of Kung Fu obsolete,
That's impossible.
Rhino's horn defense is impervious to any technique.
It was no technique. Lord Shen has created a weapon, one that breathes fire and spits metal. Unless he is stopped, this could mean the end of Kung Fu.
But I just got Kung Fu!
And now, you must save it.
However, the cannons are shown to have a massive handicap, as it is difficult to near impossible to hit a moving target. In the end, the weapon does prove to be his downfall, since the largest version of the cannon ends up killing him. Then there is the question of what exactly makes him such a badass. Well, first of all, his fighting style is awesome. I already mentioned earlier that the way he fights resembles the martial art of using a metal war fan. But to me, one of Shen's best talents has to be that he's very swift and very fast, which is how he often escapes many dangers, obstacles, and how he can benefit in fights. Another badass quality is how he can suddenly turn so nasty, so cruel, and so manipulative, like the scene I mentioned earlier between him and Po in the factory.
Tell me what happened that night.
What night?
That night.
Ah, that night.
Yes. We're talking about the same night, right?
Yes, I was there. Yes, I watched as your parents abandoned you. It's a terrible thing. I believe it went something like this.
That was just so nasty, it's hard not to be entertained and enjoy watching him doing it. Also, he actually manages to kill Master Thundering Rhino, who was already established as being one of the great Kung Fu masters, is the head of the Kung Fu Council, basically owns the throne of Gongmen City after the Peacock's reign died out. Managed to break Shen's blades with his hammer. We first met him in the Kung Fu Holiday Special, and is the son of Master Flying Rhino, who was mentioned in the first film.
Master Flying Rhino's armor, with authentic battle damage!
Not only did he kill him, but by putting his cloud hammer on display right in the spot where he died, he did it just to let everyone see what a total badass he is, and to mock his name. And he manages to keep the remaining council members in jail, and the best part about that is, he doesn't even need to have tight security keeping them there. There's like, what, 1 or 2 wolves actually standing inside the prison? The only thing that keeps them there is the fear he inflicts on them. He leaves them so scared that even when the Furious Five are literally trying to force them both out of the prison, they aggressively refuse, going so far as to fight Poe so that he will leave them in the prison. Oh, and did I mention at all that Croc was voiced by famous action stars Jean-Claude Van Damme? But here is the best quality. Despite Shen being a peacock, he managed to defeat and intimidate animals that could very easily outmatch him. Like, he manages to kill a rhino, has an army of gorillas and wolves at his command, can scare an ox and a crocodile, and even the idea of killing a whole village of pandas is pretty ballsy. Because despite their cute and cuddly appearance, pandas are still essentially bears, you know, and bears are one of the most feared animals on the planet. And of course, he nearly leaves the Furious Five feeling completely defeated and hopeless, who, might I add, have the pedigree of having a tiger and a viper on their team, to say the least. So without a shred of doubt, seeing a peacock put a rhino, a crocodile, an ox, a tiger, a whole group of pandas, grey wolves, silverback gorillas, and so many others in that place is definitely a total badass.